Ceci est un livre audio autogénéré par Google. APAS. International Symposium. Shocking Game and Other Fainting Game. Practices, Conséquences and Prévention. Françoise Cochet, APAS President. APAS. International Symposium. Shocking Game and Other Fainting Game. Practices, Conséquences and Prévention. L'arme attend. APAS. International Symposium. Shocking Game and Other Fainting Games Practices. Conséquences and Prévention. Thursday, 3 RD décembre 2009. Introduction. Françoise Cochet. APAS President. I think we will get started now, even though we are still awaiting a number of people who are at the registration desk, because we do not want to get too far behind schedule. On behalf of APAS Association, of which I am president, I would like to thank you for attending. I also thank all those who had planned to attend today, and who were prevented from doing so either by the flu or vaccine shot requirement. We have not had much luck, given the concurrence of this issue. In particular, I wish to thank Roselyne Bachelot-Narquin, Minister of Health and Sport, for having kindly agreed to host this event and loan us this room and all of the equipment in it for test 2 days of our conference. She will be represented by Dr. Penanster from the French National Health Directorate. I also thank Luc Chatel, Minister of Education, who was unable to make himself available over test 2 days, but who will be represented by the Director General of Primary and Secondary Education, Jean-Louis Nambrini. I wish to thank Marie-Dominique Simonet, Minister of Compulsory Education in the French-speaking community of Belgium, for her support. She will be represented by Étienne Jokir, advisor to the PMS Centre. Patrick Gérard, Rector of the School Board and Chancellor of the Universities of Paris, whom I thank for his support, kindly thank Sylvie Gonnet, Technical Advisor to the Rector's Office, to represent him. My sincerest gratitude goes to Jean-François Dehecq, Chairman of Sanofi Aventis, who, for years now, since 2002, when upon being informed of our initiative, he immediately recognized it as a serious health issue that it is and the need to break the taboo on this form of children's play, for, indeed, it is play, which actually translates into practices that can turn out deadly or have disastrous consequences, i.e., permanent disabilities. These practices have been so widespread for dozens of years, yet ultimately only came under scrutiny in 2000, previously unknown to parents and professionals, meaning physicians or nurses alike. Jean-François Dehecq recognized this as a public health issue before us and HAS incessantly supporting us, helping us out and advising us. His sponsorship department at Sanofi Aventis, present with us today, also deserve our sincerest thanks for its support, headed by Director Cathy Forget, as well as the entire team at the department. I would also like to thank the French MPS present in the room or soon to arrive, in particular those from the UMP, who worked all summer on a report on this topic, Cécile Dumoulin, Member of Parliament representing the Yvelines and Patrice Vercher, MP representing the Rhône. As well, I thank the Belgian MPS and their representative. On behalf of the association, I would like to express our profound gratitude to all of those who agreed to speak at this conference. Jean-Marie Huet, Judge and Director of Criminal Affairs and Pardon at the Ministry of Justice, kindly agreed to share with us how penal law considers these practices. He will join us later this morning. Professor Andrew McNabb and Thomas Andrew, who crossed oceans to be with us for test 2 days, will share their work and thoughts with us as well. Dr. Marie-France Lehezet, who agreed to come share her opinion as a child and adolescent psychiatrist, as well as her conclusion. Dr. Charlie Fampoux-Tounji and the City of Noisy-le-Sec, where he Public Health Coordinator, who will talk about his experience in prevention. I think all of the members of our scientific committee composed will hear each of them, so I will not mention them each by name: doctors, emergency doctors, pediatricians, sociologists specialists in risk behaviors, including one professor from the University of Strasbourg, psychiatrist, child psychiatrist, as well as one person who comes from Lisbon, who has carried out a great deal of research on the existing literature and will address a particularly thorny topic for us tonight. I also wish to thank the National Civil Police Force, the National Military Police Force, the United States Police Force, also represented today, the Ministry of the Interior's Victims Delegation, which has launched a number of very important initiatives precisely aimed at informing the civil police, the military police and also the firefighters. The Victims Delegation will be represented by MS Chapalin, a police officer who retired this summer. I also thank the entire national education community. In addition to Mr. Nambrini, it is represented in particular by Françoise Cusin, physician and technical advisor to the Saône-et-Loire School Board, which has been partner to our association for many years. She will also speak tomorrow afternoon and her presentation of what our department has achieved will be very valuable to us. My sincerest gratitude goes to the families of the victims present and who will remain with us throughout the 2 days. Not all of the victims' family are here, of course, as their large numbers would have more than filled this venue, Salle La Roque. These are families of victims and parents who have committed to carrying out information and prevention initiative, or parents who are professionals themselves, for instance, in medicine or biology or nursing. I thank all of the parents who come from different continents, spending many hours in airplanes to join us and who will speak tomorrow about the initiative underway in their countries and how they managed to break the taboo on this game that has taken so many lives. We learned of further deaths this week in France as well as abroad. I will conclude by addressing special thanks to the parents of victims who have come together in 2 associations, Shusinga and GASP, and the Caljar Support Committee, several representatives of which are here today. Thanks to Kabu, for the drawing he gave us for this conference. Thanks to Devi Kilembe, who will sing us his Indian Dream song tomorrow. As stated, we will start by setting out the issue. We will try to understand the why, the how, the cause and the consequence. Why are these practices so dangerous? How can we warn parents, of course, but also children, from the youngest to those at university, of the horrific consequence of these practices, which they believe to be harmless, which they think are totally commonplace and which cause death, I told you, every month in France and as stated, across the world. Thank you. Dominique de Penanster. Promotion de la santé et prévention des maladies chroniques. Direction générale de la santé. Madame Françoise Cochet, chairperson. Ladies and gentlemen. I would first like to apologize on behalf of Roselyne Bachelot, Minister of Health and Didier Houssin, Chief Medical Officer in France, who are sorry that they are unable to open this conference but have been detained elsewhere in connection with the ongoing flu pandemic, I'm sure you will understand. They have asked me to represent them and to assure you of the close attention with which they are following the topics that has brought us together for 2 days. I am particularly pleased to welcome you to the Ministry of Health, to demonstrate the support of the French Department of Health and my department in particular for the work of the Association of Parents of Children Involved in Strangulation Accident, Association de parents d'enfants accidentés par strangulation, APAS, which has organized this event. Preventing risk behavior in young people is one of the key aspects of the public health policy, in this segment of the population which Roselyne Bachelot initiated in February 2008 in the Youth Health Plan. Every accident is a tragedy. And it is all the more so when a young person is involved, and when the outcome is disability or death. But as cause of morbidity and mortality are avoidable, and that is why the Ministry of Health undertook to fight against dangerous games 2 years ago, when you, Madame Cochet, came to present the problem to me at our first meeting. On that occasion, introducing your association to me, you said that our only wish is that no one should experience the nightmare that we have been through, and that no another child or teenager should die because he or she took part in a foolish game, unaware of or underestimating the danger involved. We can only reiterate these words and make the battle that you are fighting our battle. Each year in France and in Europe, many children and teens become victims of hazardous games. By engaging or taking part in them, voluntarily or otherwise, these young people are often unaware of the danger involved or the disastrous consequences to which they expose themselves. Even though, accidents resulting from scarf game, the most widely known, and the work developed by the APAS in reaching the authorities media's attention, has started to encourage discussion on this topic. Families, healthcare professionals and professionals working in contact with young people are still largely unaware of the extent of the phenomenon of dangerous games and their consequences. Added to this, there is a heavy silence surrounding the phenomenon, both among the children and young people themselves and sometimes among official bodies, hence the limited amount of data about the actual frequency of such activities. When a tragic accident does occur, it is difficult to identify it as such, since dangerous play does not necessarily come to mind as a possible cause. This explains why epidemiological data on the topic are scarce and scattered, coming from a variety of sources which cannot easily be compared in order to establish reliable national statistics. These sources include the Ministry of Education, hospital emergency rooms, the French Emergency Service, the Civil Police, Military Police, local authorities, associations like APAS and others still. It is estimated that 15 to 20 young people die each year in France as a result of engaging in these games. These figures probably underrepresent the reality, since some accidents are considered to be suicide by hanging or strangulation, or even the accidental outcome of traditional games. It is therefore very difficult to establish trends and ideas are needed as to how data can be gathered more effectively, so as to obtain a better understanding of this phenomenon and be add to the studies that have been carried out in France and internationally. These dangerous games are played by children and teenagers within the family circle as well as in the school environment, and are spread in particular by the internet, where certain sites promote such games without any warning about the hazards involved. Several types of games exist and are categorized as intentional or forced, meaning that the child takes a part in the game unwillingly, but may also vary in how they are carried out and in the circumstances surrounding them. A distinction is made between the following, under a wide variety of names: games of assault, in which gratuitous physical violence is used by a group against a child chosen as a target or scapegoat throughout an entire day, based on a pretense determined in the morning, e.g., clothing of a certain color, their birthday, etc. Games of oxygen deprivation, choking, suffocation or fainting, to which the scarf game belongs, and which are some of the oldest. This category of play, which is the focus of this conference, consists of obstructing breathing, thus slowing oxygen flow to the brain and creating anoxia, in order to experience intense sensation or pseudo-hallucinatory vision, sometimes heightened by attempting to hyperventilate, leading to loss of consciousness, coma and in some cases death. The risk of death is even higher when the young person repeats the game alone at home. This two-day event will focus on oxygen deprivation or fainting games. My office also addresses games of assault, in view of their impact on the young people's health and the violence they represent. As well as gaining a better grasp of this devastating trend, it is important that we fight it, and in this respect the best weapon is prevention. Prevention means spreading information about the risk associated with such activities to the general public and healthcare professionals, who need to be aware of certain symptoms that young people may display, signs on the skin of the neck, buzzing in the ears, headache, withdrawal, etc. As well as to professionals working in contact with young people, especially those in the state education system. When targeting information at young people, special care must be taken in determining the quantity, angle and educational impact of the message, so as not to produce the opposite effect from the one sought and instead put ideas into young people's heads. Madame Cochet, I am aware of the many conference, discussion and information and prevention sessions you hold with young people and know that you will fight unfailingly to prevent families from experiencing tragedy like this. Dissemination of the materials you have developed to prevent young people from taking part in fainting games is vital for professionals in the fields of healthcare and education. They help them work effectively with children and contribute to bucking the trend and ultimately wiping it out, in line with the target you have set out. For this reason, over the last 2 years, the Ministry of Health and Sport has provided its support to APEAS, so that there can be more prevention initiative, and so that healthcare and education professionals can be informed of and trained in the prevention methods that can be used to prevent such tragedy. Our work also completes the work being done by the Ministry of Education and more specially, the Directorate General for Primary and Secondary Education, which has also been involved for many years in action to prevent violence, one example of which is the brochure, Dangerous Games and Violent Practices, available at the EduSchool website. The presence of the officials from the Ministry of Education and National Police Force at this conference, as well as the address by the Director General of Primary and Secondary Education scheduled for tomorrow shows that all of the relevant ministries are now mobilized to fight this serious problem in our society. You stated that as today's should broach a topic of dangerous games, exploring even their most complex aspects. The agenda shows a wide range of presentations which will surely contribute to an extremely productive exchange, particularly through experience sharing with the foreign representative expected tomorrow. I will unfortunately not be able to be here with you for both days, but will keep hacking here to the conference conclusion. We will meet again to officially set up other initiatives, of which this conference is only the start. I wish you all a successful conference, one that allows you to make your contribution to fighting this trend affecting our children and young people, and to which no one could be indifferent, whether they are apparent or not. Jean-Louis Nambrini, Chief Director Primary and Secondary Education. Dear Member of Parliament, Madam President, Mr. President, this morning, I represent Luc Chatel, who would have liked to be with us, but who expressly asked that I speak on his behalf, so great is his concern about this topic that is of such concern to you. It is a full-fledged topic of education. As you know, the nation entrusts its schools with ever-increasing responsibilities. The issue of the flu, which has prevented some of the high-ranking civil servants from this ministry from being here, was mentioned earlier. Yesterday, we convened all of our school board correspondents in charge of the flu pandemic. There may be doctors here who were correspondent to the school boards, and who were in attendance at our meeting yesterday. Where else is concerned, I would like to remind you the 2005 Act that instituted the Common Core of Knowledge and Skills, also specifies the responsibilities of the national education system. I am quoting from the Common Core now: we must ensure that our students are educated about sexuality, health and safety. We must ensure that they are capable of performing rescue, to the level required by the relevant certification. We must ensure that each student is aware that life in society is based on self-respect, and this is the very crux of the matter, and respect for others. Of course, it has always been the responsibility of the schools of the French nation to impart knowledge which students can use for their health and well-being. This was, in fact, one of the foundations of the schools of the French nation, with its determination to educate at what is appropriate behavior, promote moral of behavior fed as the most long-standing among you will remember, by bad examples derived from the student's environment. Various recommended readings assisted toward this. Modern times call for modern methods. Today, not only are schools asked to convey basic knowledge, as the law clearly states, but, furthermore, it must bear increasingly great responsibilities on all issues and in particular those with which we will be dealing today. Perhaps because children and teens have become more vulnerable. Perhaps too because parents' words have lost some of their impact, they are often faced with opposition. Perhaps too because, in our world, children and teenagers feel a bit lost. And most definitely because everyone now wants to experiment, make their own choices, find their own limits and seek out new sensations. These are reference points from our world, from the adult world. I say this simply to denote the trouble which educators have in trying to take action against violent practices in schools and beyond school walls. Ladies and gentlemen, I would nonetheless like to tell you that our institution is determined and unflagging in the attention it pays to preventing dangerous behaviors of this kind, including specifically hazardous games. I am referring obviously to the oxygen deprivation games on which this symposium focuses. You just referred to them using the detailed name the SCARF game, of course, as you stated. I also noted among the many designations, Blue Dream, Indian Dream, and the Tomato game. We need to pay very close attention to these designations, to the names which young people give to these games, and which reflect that they clearly do not identify them with the hazards of such concern to us, but rather we see them within the setting of experience, and one that is their own specifically. I am referring here, of course, and I am not going to ignore them, even though they are not the focus of the symposium, to assault games, happy slapping, tunnel massacre, or even more explicitly, a sudden death game. These are an odd variety of games to tell the truth, which people sometimes find themselves playing against their own will, subject to the influence or even the violence of their peer group, and to what consequence. You said it clearly, Madam President, and there is no need for me to repeat it. It befalls the national education system to prevent, and refuse within its own walls, that children and adolescents should be able to take heedless and sometimes deadly risk. It befalls the educational system as well to inform them, prepare them to make their own choices, measure the consequence of their own act, understand the seriousness of the said act, all in understandable terms that are acceptable to these adolescents and children. This is the task which those working in our primary schools and our lower and upper secondary schools strive to perform each day, from the teachers to the administration, student service personnel, school workers and service workers. In short, it is all of the adults in the national education system or at the local authority level who must continue, unfailingly, to keep watch. I would, however, like to single out one group in particular, whose work too often goes unrecognized, the doctors and nurses in the national education system who today, while we discuss this serious issue, not only have to tend to them, but are also serving the Ministry of Health, taking care of vaccination, as you know. These are people who do extraordinary work and, on behalf of Luc Châtel, I would like to pay profound tribute to them and to all those in the national education system, I reiterate this. Their job is a difficult one, increasingly demanding and somewhat thankless, it must be recognized, in that often, when something does not go well, blame is placed on the school. As you may know, every year, and address, on the minister's behalf, a list of priorities for the year to the educational community. And well, for the past 2 years running, a reference document for the school year, which we refer to as the Back to School Circular, highlights the topic of hazardous games. This is a direct quote. It is a text sent out to school board members, school board inspectors and all those in charge. It is expressly stated that prevention and anti-violence must be organized within each establishment. The occurrence of hazardous games, in particular, is to be the focus of constant attention. In order to support the teachers in our primary schools, lower secondary schools and upper secondary schools, the Ministry has published, you already mentioned this, but since you promoted it, I will continue in the same vein and show it this little brochure, which some of you in this room helped make into the valuable resource that it is. Hazardous games and violent practices, preventing, taking action and intervening. As you stated, it can be downloaded at a site called EduSchool, which is spelled just like it sounds, it's easy. You can go take a look and you can criticize it because that will help us produce the updated version. We always need tools that are in step with the times, reflecting the speech pattern of the times, which match up with what sociologists and scientists have learned and which enable us to make progress. The brochure was drawn up at Said with the help of top specialists. With regard to hazardous games, it set out the physical and behavioral signs that should alert the educational community. You alluded to this previously and I will not linger on it. One chapter in particular focuses on the issue of risk-taking in children and adolescents. I think that the document helps create a greater understanding that, while risk-taking is necessary, there is an education in risk-taking, and it is of the adolescent years, adults have the duty to watch for those times when the situation might veer out of control, of course. There is, admittedly, this brochure, but there is also a training effort. The healthcare personnel working for the National Education System can now take part, under their continuing training entitlement, as the Minister announced in the spring, a training module specifically dedicated to Hazardous games. The representative from my office will probably tell you more precisely what it is all about. Against this backdrop, some national terms of reference have just been completed with the assistance of recognized experts on the topic and will, of course, be brought to the attention of the association involved. Madame Cochet, a president of APEAS, you are aware of this and you have long contributed to our efforts as well as specifically to drafting the brochure. We can really tell you and I will tell you again, on the watchfulness, availability and competence of those working in the national education system, alongside the teachers. Recess, for instance, need to be times of intense awareness. Yet, unfortunately, this is not enough. We need only look at the shocking games, for instance, that often take place in the home to realize this. This is why we need to instruct and educate with substantiated talking points. I may be laying a bit too much emphasis on this today, and continuously taking care to update and overhaul them. The quality of the message we deliver is absolutely vital to achieving shared success. It is for this reason that I was especially pleased to learn that this conference would take place and moreover, would include presentations such as those we have planned throughout the 2 days, public announcement, high-quality speaker, compelling questions and a varied scientific approach through the presentations. All of these factors hold the seeds for in-depth discussion and a greater understanding of all of the phenomena surrounding hazardous games. I will say this very simply, we at the Ministry of Education need your input. We need your suggestion in order to be more effective. We cannot do this alone. Thank you for your attention. Introduction. Jean-François Dehecq, Chairman of the Sanofi Aventis Board of Directors. I do not have much to add to what has already been said and plus, I may not be entirely at home here. What do I mean by that? What I mean first is that, while the President of the session thanked me for being here, it is rather up to me to thank her. I thank you, then, for having invited me here. Right, well, at the head of a major corporation, we instituted, a long time ago, what is known vaguely speaking as sponsorship. It is not something vague for those who are involved in it, though, it represents a considerable amount of work. Cathy Forget, who is among us today, is in charge of patronage at Sanofi Aventis. It is not charity business. It is something on which it is important to be extremely understated. I think that, for 30 years, I tried to be discreet and not to call too much attention to that. Today, the trend is more to show off what you do. Madam, I remember the first time someone came to tell me about a subject with which I was totally unfamiliar. Even though, having done a law, up to and including in the national education system, and though I have taken part in many training seminars, unfortunately only as chairman of boards of directors, university dean position, deans of top learning institutions, despite all of that and because of the way in which it takes place, one can remain somewhat out of touch with certain reality. So when someone came to talk to me, when you came to talk to me, madam, first you spoke from heart. Because people tend to lose sight of this somewhat, but that is where you had been impacted personally in your flesh by what happened. Now, you are president of APEAS, but above all, you are a mother who has endured something particularly painful. So, what is one to do upon crossing paths with someone like you? We can hardly refrain from taking action, otherwise, one might ask what life would be if we always back down. So it all came about quite naturally. It came about quite naturally. You helped us understand a number of things. We tried to see how we could help you. You were and you are, regardless of what some may claim, still quite alone, you and your team. Your team is somewhat alone because, as always, words are good, messages are good and they are extremely important. Today, it is fantastic to enjoy the recognition of this conference and you wanted this international conference to take place, with people who really know their fields inside out, who know what they can bring in and who know how we can make progress. For 2 days, they are going to speak out. I think that they are the ones who should have the floor, and this is why I will not go on too long. And of course, do feel like there is recognition for the problem and this does take you to a new level today, you a president along with your team. There is the fact that, yes, of course, we are going to continue giving you some funds and, I hope, you will also receive some from a number of institutions. But there is still something else that is important as well, it is that the most important things in life are not about money and they are not about talk. They are, when it comes down to it, about men and women. This is what we need to achieve and what everyone, here, needs to succeed in developing in the years to come or in the months is the team of men and women who will give you a hand, because I think that you have been more than dedicated, both you and your team. I think that this too is important, that we all feel we have a responsibility in this everyone. There are many people far more learned than me and we will hear from them over the course of these 2 days. In any case, you definitely do need help, in addition to moral support, in addition to financial support. You need men and women ready to come alongside you. This cannot be a volunteer effort. And at some point in time, there is going to have to be recognition that this is serious enough for there to be a delegate partially put at your disposal, we paid by the local authorities, because this is a serious problem for the local authorities. I think, dear President, that you set out the issue well. It is clear that this topic is particularly close to your heart. Of course, the Ministry of Health is behind you. I feel that the presentation made by the representative from the National Education System, my school, or schools, is something that is also extremely important. However, we are going to have to go even further. We are going to have to further, there is no doubt about this. I have such admiration for how you were able to put this structure together, and for all of the people who agreed to come today. Yes, there are parents. They too are here in the room. It must not be easy for them to listen to all of this because they know from the inside what it means. All we do is talk about it. Above all, there is the scientific community in the broadest sense of the term, people who are highly skilled and whom we can hope to see contribute ideas, telling us something about what might be possible, what will not be possible, how we need to go about this so that we can put just that much more pressure to get things done the way they need to be done. I am very pleased that the Member of Parliament is here because, personally, I believe that, in life, everything is political. And I think that societies do when they pass their responsibilities onto institutions, rather than shouldering them on their own, for instance through representation and national representation, which is still the most important level. This gives you, all of you, far greater responsibilities. And from that standpoint, I think that the MP work, the work of a representative, is something that is also often thankless. First of all, because you have to get through election each time, and we are always watching to see what will happen. But this process needs to be fully for the benefit of others, meaning for the benefit of cause of this kind. I am not going to continue much further because I don't have much else to say and I think that you, in contrast, have much more to say. But really, I wanted to thank you. Because personally, where I work, when I got hold of the problem, what did this change in the company? Well, it changed something fundamental, meaning that, all of a sudden, I was not the only one, along with the people in the communication department and the sponsorship department, to recognize this as being true. We tried to get a grip on this in the company. It has been one of our cause. This meant that over 100,000 people across the world were looking at this issue and pointing it out as a real problem, people who went to their children's schools, explaining that this was a real problem and who really became informers about this serious issue and, each at their own level, their own very modest level, became advocates for the children involved in this matter. You have done a great deal for us. You have done a great deal for us. You know, a company, of course, live off of its performance. It live off all kinds of things. Empire can be built. But companies are, first of all, a workforce that needs to have meaning if it wants to fare well. What you are doing, I am telling you this, and saying so first and foremost for those working on the issue and taking a particularly interest in it, HAS, I think, made us all a bit more than we were. You know, I often say, I always say that when I am 6 feet under, no one will remember that I built an empire and that I was laden with awards. But I hope that, in a few pockets of the world, there are people who will have the feeling that I did a little something to help them live the life of people who never back down. That is my only aspiration. You have helped me carry this force and bring it to others. For this I thank you deeply. Thank you. Jocelyn Lachance. PhD student in Sociology, University of Strasbourg Université. Laval de Québec. We have a full agenda ahead of us. I will be with you throughout the next 2 days. Allow me to introduce myself briefly. I am the moderator of this conference. I am a doctoral student in sociology at University of Strasbourg and Université Laval in Quebec. A symposium of the breadth and multidisciplinarity, which we will be lucky enough to hear over the next 2 days also entail a degree of difficulty. There will be many contributors speaking in succession. I have no doubt that they will all be very interesting, and that they will have a great deal to say. Nonetheless, we are going to have to place some limits on speaking time. I will thus ask from the outset that everyone keep to their allotted time. Discussion times have also been provided during the day for interaction between the audience and the speaker. Here too, some people may feel they will miss out, and we may have to cut the discussion off in order to go further in the agenda. I would remind you that there are also break planned, informal times during which you will be able to talk with the contributors. If everyone does their part, we will enjoy a fine symposium which no one will leave feeling deprived. This is the challenge we have set out for ourselves over the next 2 days. We are starting with an introductory film about the shocking game issue. This is not a game direction, Gilles Corr. This very fine film offers an excellent introduction to the topic. We will have the opportunity to meet several of the people who took part in the film during the symposium. They will speak throughout the conference today and tomorrow. During the symposium, people from several different fields in the social arena and hard science will be present. We will start out this morning with contribution from the medical community. Doctors are major, possibly fundamentally players in order to better understand this topic. Fainting and suffocation practices in children, immediate and long-term consequences. Dr. Jean Lavaux. Doctor and emergency pediatrician. Today, I will discuss primarily the immediate, short-term and long-term consequences of fainting and suffocation practices in our children and adolescents. Many of these practices are engaged in intentionally and, sometimes, involuntarily, with children forced to take part in the game so that they can become part of a peer group. They can be seen in children from age 5 to adolescence. I remember one little girl who was 5 years old and who, during a pause at school, would hang herself over a metal bar until she had compressed her larynx long enough to pass out. Clearly, such practices can begin very early. Furthermore, while the games are most often initiated by groups of children in school establishment, and particularly in elementary schools and lower secondary schools, they are also found in other group settings, recreation centers, holiday centers, boarding schools. At the start, the initiation takes place in a group setting, but the extreme seriousness, meaning a higher number of deaths, is seen when a child repeats the experience alone. To do so, the child hangs him or herself. And this, when there is significant hypoxia, leads to a loss of consciousness. Once this occurs, it is too late. There is no turning back the clock. The shield zone weight intensifies the shocking and pushes the child from coma into death. The IMS when engaging in such practices vary, experiencing extremely powerful emotional sensations, experiencing sensory and hallucinatory sensations, seeing shapes of varied shapes and colors, having a eye or seeing objects move around one. It can also be to be part of a social group or to be accepted. This is an entirely distinct form of imitation. In some cases, there may be real addiction. There are children who repeat the experience several times per day, every day and, each time, when they are alone, endangering their life. The mechanisms have been clearly identified. First, there is intentional oxygen deprivation. It is also referred to as a tomato game. Children, very young children, in preschools, in the last year, or in elementary schools, hold their breath for as long as they can until they faint. This so-called tomato game is very familiar to the children. Then there is suffocation, meaning manual thoracic compression, this impeding the arrival of air. In some cases, ligature can be put around the child's thorax. Yesterday, one of my colleagues in pediatrics told me that he had seen.
Nous espérons que vous avez apprécié cet aperçu. Pour continuer à écouter ce livre audio sur Google Play Livres, utilisez le lien dans la description de la vidéo.